It's time for another episode of the PEBAheads, and Scott and I are with you this week. And we're going to go through our preseason predictions and highlight some of the top players around the league by division, and then who knows where we'll go from there. How are you doing, Scott?
Excellent. Another fine Saturday morning.
Get a big gulp of coffee there, and we can get going. Well, we can. I'll share my screen so everyone can see the current standings in the league here, but can kind of start going through league, and we could start off with the ILC board. What are your thoughts on that division and the moves the team's made over the offseason?
Well, notwithstanding the first week of the season, it's sample size, people. It's 1 week, but West Virginia's at the top, which is where I expect them to be when the season's over. As far as the rest of them, things can and probably will shuffle around. But coincidentally, I actually expect the division to finish out the way it's currently situated. I've got West Virginia winning the division, Hartford coming in second, Manchester third, Arlington fourth, and New Jersey fifth. And I'm curious to see if New Jersey's going to have the worst record in the league this year. I know you and I, Sean, have talked about there should be a pretty darn good pitcher available, number one overall, if things go according to plan. And New Jersey's obviously in a rebuild. I think their entire starting rotation is Rule 5 guys, if I'm not mistaken, which is interesting. I'm not sure if that's happened too many times, but I don't expect them to win too many games. I think that they may be looking to trade some pieces off because I think they look at their window as being a couple seasons at least out. And if they manage to land a superstar pitcher that you can build around, then that's a significant win for them. But I definitely see West Virginia as winning the division and being very, very competitive in the playoffs.
No, I like West Virginia as well. I think Hartford has a shot at passing them this year. So it for me, between those two teams, it's a coin flip. I like the moves that Hartford made in the offseason to kind of take it. I think it was 2 seasons ago they made kind of a surprise playoff run, and then last year took a step back. But then over the course of the offseason, they made some moves and made some moves at the deadline last year that I think helped set their team up well for this year. So it's really when you have a pitcher like Goder, if you can get it in a playoff series, especially a short one, I think they've got a chance. So should be interesting. I like how both of those teams seem to have opposite styles and how they're building their teams. So you have the more defense contact approach in West Virginia with good pitching, and then Hartford's got offensive power everywhere. It seems they could be one of the top hitting teams in the IL, I think, this year. So
Yeah, Hartford having, an ace like Goder is definitely helpful, but I'm looking at their history page and they did finish second last season. They finished first in 2041, but they finished first with a sub 500 record.
yeah,
Um, it's a division I wish I was in. I think I would have a much better chance of making the postseason if Reno was over in that division. But Hartford's got they've basically been a 500 team for several seasons. Do you see them as breaking out this season and maybe winning, you know, 85 to 90 games?
I think it's possible, and I think, and we'll get into it when we talk about some of the IL other divisions, but I realistically, I think they could get one of the wild card spots this year, but it's really going to depend on how bad the Dixie beats up on each other. So for that
Yeah.
to happen, because realistically, there's probably 4 teams in the Dixie that could possibly reach the playoffs. It's just a matter of if it's going to happen or not, and how bad they beat up on each other. So
Yeah, I would be surprised if the Seaboard produced a wild card. I think West Virginia runs away with it, and I don't see the rest of them as being very competitive. I mean, they've got some decent teams there. I mean, again, other than New Jersey, I think the rest of them are quality teams. It's just I just think some of the other divisions just have stronger candidates.
yeah, and that's where the team quality was where I was more so going with it because if New Jersey struggles like we both think they will, that's a lot of wins for
Yeah,
Hartford and West Virginia.
true.
That and then I know Justin's pretty high on his Arlington squad, so they might, depending on how that goes, if they're competing, then maybe they're a buyer at the deadline. If they're not, then maybe they're selling, and that opens up some more wins for those teams. So in Manchester, I think they're still in that kind of what do we do phase. And I think they're still trying to build, and they've got some nice young pieces, but they're not to that point yet where I don't think they'll be taking that next step this year. So it'll be interesting to see if Manchester tries to tank a little bit. And I know
Well,
tanking is that frowned upon word,
The
but
T
like
word, the T word. Don't say the T word.
doesn't try as hard as you possibly could to put 4A players in your lineup.
I
But
haven't looked
like to
at
like Michael's credit though, like he brought up the rotation being all Rule 5 guys. I think oftentimes like we forget on all the ways that you can build a team. And at this point, would it really make sense for him to go spend like $1 million or $2 million on some 35-year-old starting
no,
pitcher or
no,
just
no.
plug a
I
guy
think
in there and hope that
I
he
think
turns into a Brewster?
no. I think it would be foolish. I
Yeah.
think he should focus, and I believe he is focusing on developing young players in his system so that he can take advantage of a window when it arrives. And it certainly will arrive. The question is just when.
Yeah,
But
and I
I
mean,
do think that a big thing, and not to beat a dead horse here. I am really really looking throughout the season to try and see who is going to have the number one pick next year. And I think New Jersey is a significant candidate for the number one overall pick next year. And like I said, that
it's
that pitcher is just unbelievable. That is once in a generation type draft pick that you could really build a solid winner around.
yeah. No, I think it's going to be. I agree. It's going to be interesting, and then it's going to be really interesting to see how it impacts playoff races down the as we progress because you start if we get to a point where there's teams that are just out of it and full on not trying to win. That could be a lot of free wins, and we might be able. I mean, depending on what division it happens in, you're talking about possibility of like I know it's probably never going to happen again, but just like some of the all-time leading win records and loss records in the league, just because of the type of player that's at the top of the draft.
Right. So as far as best pitcher, best hitter in that division, I've got Aaron Goder from Hartford as the best pitcher in the ILC board. And then I've got left fielder Pedro Gonzalez from Manchester as my candidate for best hitter in that division. How about you?
I've also got Aaron Goder from Hartford, and then John Miller. He's an outfielder,
Oh
first
yeah.
base DH type with Hartford. But that's what's interesting about this division is like, you've got a guy from Manchester. We both got guys from Hartford. It's the talent is spread out among that division. And when you look at West Virginia, it doesn't matter that they keep getting older. They're also they're starting to churn some younger guys into that system too. And then they were able to keep a couple of guys that looked like they might be free agent losses, but they were able to bring them back. So think Greg's going to still be very competitive and will continue to be in the hunt in that division, if not winning the dang thing. But like I said, I think it's a coin flip for me between Hartford and West Virginia, and I just went with Power and Goder. But it could very Greg could very well win that division by 10 games as well. Like if
Yeah,
he gets on a run.
he's got a track record, and we've talked about
Yep.
him before. But he's got a track record of winning. He just knows how to get it done. He's done it many times before. When his team has not performed well, it's usually because he's got things going on in the real world, and he's just not paying as close attention. But when he pays attention to his team, he manages to win.
Well, with that, let's switch over to the Dixie. What do you got?
I
Any
think it's
shockers? Do you have anyone other than Florida winning?
I think Florida is you just they got three of the best players in the entire game. Maybe three of the best players like of the last, 30 seasons. In Knopp, Van Wandel, and Brewster. I mean, and it's not like it's just those three. They got a team full of quality players to back those guys up. So, we've talked about it before. This is a team that wins a lot. I think it's hilarious. They're 1-5, and they're in fifth place right now. But trust me, this team is going to win the division by the end of the season.
Well, I know you and I both like pulling up the meet the team uh, screen, and
Yep, I do it
after
often.
after one sim, Tom Peters, their first baseman, is now ranked the first overall first baseman in the league, and Jose Rios is also ranked the number one left fielder. So, in addition to the three that you named, they've got two other
Yeah,
guys that are the top.
five, five of their positions are ranked number one, which is just crazy. But anyways, the rest of the league or rest of the division, I've got Florida, San Antonio coming in second, Charleston third, New Orleans fourth, and Kentucky. I saw someone posted on theirs, and I think Kentucky commented on it. The best fifth place team in PEBA. So it's it's a competitive division, right? With like one of the all-time great teams leading it. Um, I said I wanted to be in the Seaboard. I do not want to be in the Dixie. I would probably be the best fifth place team in that division if I was over there.
Yeah, and that's a whole another topic that we could go on to on another podcast episode of just like if you were in that situation, what do you do?
Yeah, it's tough because
Because it is extremely, it's not easy.
no, and it's not like Florida, has a window that's closing. I mean, obviously, a lot of us are, some of us joke around. I've joked around about, ill will on those three players, but they're not going to be around forever. Now, Brewster's young, right? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
he's younger. I think
Um,
he just
he's
one or two
25.
seasons in. Yeah.
You know, if you look at, my ace, Ojeda, this was a guy who won, I think, three Golden Arms in a row and then just slowly became slightly above average. So, I mean, stranger things have happened. Brewster could be, by the time he's 28, he could turn into an Ojeda where he's just not the dominant pitcher that he once was. Um, but as far as his two good hitters, I think they're in their 30s. So their window, who knows how long it stays open. So stranger things have happened, but if you're in that division, you just got to build the best team you can get. Try and be a good young team, and then hope for the best.
Well, I know my prediction when I posted it ruffled some feathers, but I've got Florida number one, Charleston two, New Orleans three, San Antonio four, and then Kentucky. And I really don't understand the angst or the ruffling of the feathers on it because honestly, all four of those teams at the top of that division are all improved, and finishing fourth in that division isn't the equivalent of finishing fourth in another division. I fully expect all of like I said, that all four could be in
Wild
the
card.
playoffs this year.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I expect a lot of wild card teams to come out of the Dixie.
yeah, the thing that's going to be interesting is just with the Seaboard and then Transatlantic, just if if one of those divisions gets a second playoff team, it's going to probably be because the other teams in the division have just decided we're going after that starting pitcher. It's like D'Antonio or something like that.
Yeah.
D'Antoni. But yeah, I mean, Charleston had a down year last year, but you're 2 years away from winning the whole entire league, and they're still young. They're still within that window where they're not being pressed salary wise on retaining any of these guys yet. So, I mean, I think they're going to be right there. They've got that Ding Bong Zoo starting pitcher that looks pretty good, and then they've got they're running a six-man rotation right now with a bunch of guys that are kind of all the same ratings, but they're all pretty above average starting pitchers. So, and I think they've got, let's see, it's always hard to tell with them with the stopper thing, but um, this is weird too. Now they've got one player listed as a closer, and the rest are listed as starting pitchers. So I'll say it again. Uh, love for you to come on the podcast and explain some of these things because to a lot of people it just looks different or just would like more information on what the thought process is on it. But yeah, I don't know
Right.
if it's last year it was all stopper middle relievers and now they're all starting pitchers and I think the whole bullpen is still stoppers. So
Yeah. He's got it set up where everybody's a stopper
yeah, so should be interesting there.
and a 6-man rotation. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's going to hold throughout the season, but currently he's got a six-man starting rotation, and every one of his bullpen players or pitchers are listed as stopper role for their
yeah,
primary role, with
and he's got
no secondary role listed.
yeah, and Charleston's got like one of the more normal but still a little weird starts to the season where they have, let's see, it looks like 10 games in a row before having a day off. And then
Oh,
some
okay.
other teams that play, like my team, I think we had 5 games the first sim and we had back-to-back days off and then a day off to start this upcoming sim. So,
Yeah, I had a lot of days off this first sim, so I ended up going with a 4-man rotation, but I just switched it back to a five for the next sim. But it just
so maybe
didn't seem like there was any value in having five starting pitchers when I had so
you're
many
not
days
going to use
off.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe that's where the 6-man rotation to start the year comes into play with that many games in a row, but we'll,
right.
we'll watch it and see what happens.
As
But
far as
then,
the best players, the
yeah,
best pitcher and best hitter, I would be surprised if we're not the same. Brewster is the best pitcher, and I've got Van Wandel as the best hitter in that division. With
that's what I,
with a shout out to this right fielder Michael Nunez from Charleston, a high quality hitter. It's just you can't take out Van Wandel yet.
that's where I'm at too. I did want to mention, I think the New Orleans starting pitcher, Young On Che, he's like a 25-year-old that if Brewster wasn't in the division, he'd be getting a look for me for top pitcher. And then uh, San Antonio's got two young hitters that I think oftentimes get overlooked because of the division they're in. This Hisashi Takuchi is a second base shortstop type. And then well, there's one more. Who's the other one? This Fernando Martinez, who's got him playing in center field right now. That's interesting. Nine outfield range guys, so definitely a valuable under the radar type guy. And with playing in center field, who knows? He might give Vito a run for WAR leader and the IL right now. But just to kind of close the loop on the Dixie, though, I think both like New Orleans made some nice moves that I think pushed them into that playoff contender range, and then San Antonio's made moves the past couple years, and then I think over the offseason they kind of made a really big splash with Palm Springs starting pitcher Yamaguchi. So they've got that guy now to kind of go with some of their other young pitchers. So they should be. A, I mean, we joke all the time. What Florida wins 105 games now,
Right.
and
Florida's in big trouble this year by losing, their catcher and Trevino. There's one of their starting pitchers. I think it's devastating to lose two players like that, and I think it means that they might only win about 105 games.
and it's
Feel
not a slight
really
on the
bad.
other teams. It's just that's the hill, and we acknowledge and recognize the hill that you have to climb. All right, let's move over to the transatlantic.
A division that you're somewhat familiar with.
Kinda, just a little bit.
So I've got you, Sean, winning the division. So Scottish one, San Juan two, London three, Havana four. I'm going to say it like it's spelled. Gloucester number five, and Amsterdam sixth. Now, what I will say is, I think that picking the division winners in both the IL and the SL, I think is not too terribly difficult, but I find it to be very, very difficult to pick the rest of them, right? The wild card teams, there's a lot of teams that could, perform well. I would be stunned if West Virginia, Florida, and the Scottish did not win those divisions. But as far as the rest of those teams, any one of those teams could be, could have enough wins to get in on a wild card. I think it's going to be very, very competitive from the wild card standpoint. So no slight to any of those teams because there's a lot of good teams that I'm not picking to win their division that are really good teams that should put up a lot of wins.
Yeah, it's one of those two where it's like you don't know what some of these teams are going to do if they start off slow. Do they go into sell mode or do they go do the opposite and try to buy more? So I mean, in my division, you just don't know what's going to happen in that regard because I think I've got the same lineup that you read for your predictions, but I mean, San Juan obviously is trying to win. They made some big moves in the offseason
I
to their
think
pitching staff.
they were in second place in your division last year, right?
Yeah.
San Juan.
So, I mean, I think their intent's clear. London, the vibe that I've got is that they're trying to win, but they also, I, I think, are clearly the third or lower in the division.
Yes,
It's just a matter of, like if Havana improves enough to kind of pass them or not. But at this point, I have them at third, and then
San
I
Juan
think
made the playoffs last year on a wild card team with a 90 and 72 record. So, a quality run, a good run. Um, I have not seen anything to show me that they can't reproduce that again.
yeah, and they added the international starting pitcher Darling that
Yeah,
everyone was enamored with,
Avila.
Ramon Avila in the
Yeah,
offseason. So
$35 million man.
I know people get critical of it, but when you look at what their rotation was before, and then you add that to it,
Yeah.
it's a huge upgrade from what was being
Oh
out
yeah.
there every fifth day before. So it's going to be interesting. They've come out and they're scoring runs to start the year. So if the pitching can stabilize, then they should be right there. But
And then for best pitcher, I've got your ace. I assume he's still your ace after your free agent signing, Rene Padilla. And then for the best hitter, I got a first baseman named Rocky Nichols from London. Uh, Looked over quite a number of hitters in that division, and I just think that he looks the best to me as far as a pure hitter goes.
I also went with Padilla for
Homer
best
pick.
pitcher. Yeah, total homer pick there. And then batter, I went with another homer pick of Eric Nelson. And for me, I know we're taking best hitter, but I also weighed in the fact that Nelson's a second baseman and getting that production that's been consistent since we've had him for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Um,
Yeah,
he's just one
Nichols.
of the,
Nichols doesn't have a super high WAR. He's got a on a. He came in early, so this Rocky Nichols with London, they brought him up at the age of 22 in 2034. So many seasons. He's 31 now. He's got a 162 game average WAR of 5, which is significant, but he's got a 154 OPS plus. So this guy's season average is to hit 298 with a 376 on base percentage and a 518 slugging percentage. So 31 homers, 40 doubles, and 104 RBI and 92 runs scored. So from a pure offensive perspective, I think this is the batter that I would want hitting in the middle of my lineup. But if we're going to factor in defense, I probably would have gone in a different direction.
well, yeah, and to me, it's just I'd be the part that's concerning with him is I think the last 2 seasons his numbers are starting to drop, and
Yeah, I think he's 31, so we're not talking about
he's not
someone
old, yeah,
not old, but
but
definitely
not young.
someone who's his time is starting. I could see some decline in the next few years, but we have had some hitters in our wonderful PEBA universe that have performed exceptionally well, like 38, 39 years old. So he could also have some longevity here. If he does get that kind of longevity, then I think we're looking at, you know, Hall of Fame numbers for this Rocky Nichols.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. Looks like he's signed through 2046.
Yeah, I'm
You
guessing
know,
he's a favorite of the GM. That would be my guess. So
I think he's
he'll
got to be
probably
because if he's not, he'd be the guy that if you were going to start a rebuild, that I would be putting out there to try to get as much as he could.
right.
But making those type of decisions sometimes is even harder than deciding that you're even going to start the rebuild because it's like you get attached to players that have been in your organization and have provided good numbers, and yeah, it's definitely a tough decision.
Are we doing award winners? Because I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we can.
So Royal Raker, you know, unless he gets hurt, Van Wandel, right?
Yep.
Just and then Golden Arm, probably even easier. Bob Brewster, from both from Florida, and then on Wonderkind, I've got. I think it's. I mean, just because he was an international free agent, this Ramon Avila, I think is probably the most likely. So I don't think any of those could be controversial picks. But what
No.
were yours?
Yeah, those were my three as well. So there's other great players in the league, but when you've got those two and then the international pool coming in, it's a tough hill to climb for the average rookie to try to win that award, and then you got Brewster and Vito. So good luck with that. I mean, you always have Gordon Knopp, so we'll see what he can do, but ratings wise, Vito's got the contact power, everything that you would want in a hitter. So that's going to be a tough one to supplant from that.
Agreed.
All right, let's switch over to the SL now.
The better
Start.
league.
Debatable.
But I think it's fitting that we have representation from both. You represent the IL, I represent the SL. So you want to
Did,
start off with the Great Lakes. So
yeah.
I've got Crystal Lake 1, Duluth 2, Kalamazoo 3, Madison 4, Fargo 5. I'll say that I think Duluth is definitely going to challenge for the division this year. I think adding Climo is just going to be significant for them. But they won 78 games last year. Crystal Lake, I think, won 96. I know we've talked about Crystal Lake's financial crunch or financial challenges. Um, but I still think they just have a very well-rounded, high-quality team that they're putting out there. I think they got off to what is that 7-0 start.
Yeah.
So I think their start is more indicative of how their season's going to go than Bakersfield's start, which we'll talk about next. But uh, they've got that Wendell. I think is some tough to pronounce some of these names. I think it's Guinea, third baseman, who's just a really, really good player. But you could talk me into Duluth winning that division. I just, I just feel like Crystal Lake is probably going to be the one that ekes that one out. Um, and then, Fargo, lost 98 games last year. So I'm not sure they've done enough to radically improve. We talked about this before. I think, it is fairly easy, as things go, but to get, go from a really bad team, like a 100 loss team to like a 500 team. For me, I've found that to be not too terribly difficult to do, but it's really hard, in my opinion, to go from a 500 team to a 90 win team or a 100 win team. That distance is really hard to climb.
Well, and with Fargo, what was it, 2 seasons ago, they were in the championship game against Charleston. So it's just the variation in 25. Like Fargo's the perfect team to
You think
look at.
the version change might have crushed their team? Is that what you're saying?
The previous version changed because they one of the seasons they were in the championship game and then 98 lost team the very next season. So it's like how does well, I think pretty much the same players or very similar players. So it's just a huge, yeah, they went from 92 wins to 64 in over a 2 year stretch. So I think they're closer to the 92 win team than they probably are of what the 64 win team is, but with the improvements in the division, I think that's where you and I are kind of we're on the same page, but I like them a little better than you. I've got Duluth and Crystal Lake basically a coin flip with Duluth winning it. And then I have Fargo in third, Kalamazoo fourth, and then Madison in fifth.
So
And
Madison's an interesting team for me in that, like we talked about Greg before, I think Ken is one of the best GMs in the game, in the league. He's highly competitive, really smart, and really into PEBA and out of the park. And if you to remember that this is a guy who built Florida. Um, he knows how to win in this funny game that we play, and you can't count him out. So he's a team that I have paid attention to in the past, and I will be paying attention to this season to see. Got off to a 6-1 start, but he's got some pieces left. I think he needs to put together, but I have total confidence that Madison's going to be a winning team in the not too distant future.
I don't disagree with any of that. I just question what the intent would be of even trying to
Yeah.
overachieve when you see what the draft pool is. Like if you're not like very confident that you're going to be a playoff team, then I don't really see too much of the incentive to. I mean, I'm not an advocate of tanking for 5 years in a row, but at the same token, like I think when you're building something and there's an opportunity to add a player that is automatically comes into the league as the top pitcher or one of the top pitchers and could be your ace for team controlled for 6+ years. It's hard decision, I guess, for some, but for me, it
And
wouldn't like that wouldn't
Madison
be that.
finished Madison finished second last year, 85 and 77. And I think, I'm just guessing here, but I know we had him on the podcast, Ken. And from that conversation and other things that I've heard him say, I think he hates losing. He likes winning, and I think he tries to win every season. So I don't think getting a top play or a top draft pick is something that he puts high on his priority list. I think he has confidence in his drafting and developing abilities that he probably says to himself. And again, I could be totally wrong because I'm projecting, but I think maybe he says, you know what, I'm good enough. I can get draft picks. If I pick sixth or seventh rather than first or second, I'll make it work.
Well, maybe he'll be able to acquire, I don't know, 3 more first round draft picks and it won't be a problem.
Right.
All right, let's
Top,
see. What
top pitcher, top hitter from that division.
yep,
I've got David Garcia, starting pitcher from Fargo, and that third baseman Wendell Guinea from Crystal Lake is my top hitter.
same here. Those are two really good players. I mean, each team had hitters that you could probably try to make the argument for, or ones that you could highlight that were close. Pitching wise, I think it's Garcia, and you've also got in that same division though, you've got Climo just added. So it's close, but I think Garcia on paper looks like the top pitcher to me.
All right, how about
Switch
the
over to your division,
the
Desert
Desert
Hills.
Hills? Yeah, that's right, my favorite division. Um, so I've got Tempe as number one, Palm Springs number two, Reno number three, Aurora four, Bakersfield five, and a huge surprise, Yuma sixth.
Whoa.
I think I think uh, you know if pay attention to the top and the bottom, I think Tempe is the team to beat. I know Aurora has been, Commissioner Mike is much like Ken and Greg from West Virginia. Uh, just one of those GMs who just knows how to win. Sometimes I look at his team at the start of the season and go, that's not a great team, and then he just dominates the division. Most of the time, I don't know how he does it, but he does seem to do it. But since I consider them to be the Yankees of the SL, that I'm always gonna, you know, I'm always gonna put him down. I'm gonna be wrong, I'm sure, and he's gonna win the division or come in second to Tempe, but I don't care. I'm putting him at fourth. Um, and then at the bottom, I think Yuma, has not really shown me that they're ready to
Easy.
win a division. And Bakersfield, I think, is a young and highly talented team. I just think that their window is not this year. It's probably next year, the year after, or even 3 seasons from now.
I know you don't agree with this, but I chose the Reno Zephyrs as the division winner of the Desert Hills with Palm Springs in second, Tempe in with third. And really, I think between those three teams, it's going to be a handful of games difference there. Like it could go either way, in my opinion. But my surprise pick was Bakersfield passing Aurora. And this is purely based on inside information from the Bakersfield GM, Lenny, claiming that he is not holding anyone back and that he will be attempting to win this year. So
So
take
it
that
brings
for
up
what you will. But
it brings up an interesting debate, right? You and I have discussed this. Um, there's service clock management. There's you know promoting guys sooner rather than later. There's different strategies. Lenny's strategy seems to me to be more aggressive on promotion of prospects. Some GMs like to have them in AAA a little longer. They might move them slower through the minors. Lenny seems to be pretty aggressive with his prospects, and he's gonna put out a young and talented team that I think will eventually win. I just don't think it's going to be this year, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's really going to depend on. I think he'll take steps forward this year, but I think it's what he does in the next couple seasons on adding to what he's got, which will be the interesting part for me. But
Yeah, as far as me winning the division, Ojeda would have to go back to his prior form. It's not that he's been a bad pitcher. It's just, again, it's the guy who's won three Golden Arms in a row, I believe. He seems to have fallen off. I think he might, he could be one of those players that was, damaged by a version change, but his ratings definitely diminished and deteriorated as he's gotten older. He's only 28, but he's just not the same pitcher the last couple seasons that he was earlier in his career. And I promoted one of my second round draft picks, Craig Spence, to the rotation. He's going to have to perform extremely well, and then I'm going to need Pablo Ortiz, my first baseman, to not, you know, diminish at all in his production from last year. And if I get a lot of luck, well, I did get my closer, who I think is one of the best closers in the league. I sent him to Dev Lab, and his uh, endurance doubled. He's now a 4 endurance, which will be interesting to see how many more saves I can get out of this guy. I think he was like a one or yeah, he was a one. So he went from a 1 endurance to a 4 in Dev Lab, like the greatest improvement from Dev Lab that I've had yet.
yeah,
So I'm going to need a little bit of luck, and a lot of things are going to have to go my way if I'm going to win this division. Very competitive division.
the thing that stood out for me was that I think Tempe's going to score a lot of runs, but I think they're also going to give up a lot of runs. And when you play bad teams, that works. But when you start getting into crunch time and in the playoffs, that's where I'm more worried than I have ever been for a Tempe team because I mean they've been great the past few seasons and they're still a really good team. But I think that that might be the chink in the armor of just preventing runs and on the pitching. So they've got one starting pitcher who's really, I think, one of the best starting pitchers in the league. Let's see, what's his name? Is it Schmidt? I think. No, Smith, Ernest Smith, one of the top guys in the league. They got Will Taylor at the top two. But after that, it's not like they really have like a number three guy that's really knocking your socks off.
Yeah,
So
they don't have a lot of depth. I'm not sure, but they do have. You mentioned, to spoil it. I've got my top pitcher and the top hitter in this division, both from Tempe. I think
yep,
Ernest Smith is the best pitcher in the division. And again, a division that does have a significant number of good pitchers. That guy's just, I think, far and away the best. And
yep.
then their second baseman, Michael Roberts, I think is the best hitter in the division by far also.
I agree, and I think Roberts is probably the best hitter in that league.
Yeah.
So they've got when you have that, it's a good foundation to build around. I just think when you're looking, I like the moves that Palm Springs made in the offseason. I think that they made moves that help build around their younger roster and that allows a pretty good amount of flexibility depending on how their season goes, where you either sell off some older guys or if you're in it, then maybe you're buying players. So I think they're in a good spot there with how their team is built.
Yeah, I find I find that the top four, and maybe even Bakersfield with the top five, you know, any one of those teams could win the division. Again, I think it would be a surprise to me if Bakersfield did, but you know, Palm Springs, you know, they were 86 and 76 last year, came in third in the division. You know, they could be significantly improved this year and win the division too. So it's a really tough division to pick who's going to win it.
It is, and I know, you know, it's easier for me being an outsider to it to say this, but like I just think when I look at Aurora's team, I just think that they got outmaneuvered in the off season, and just I think they're. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to overcome the losses that they had to their team. And I think when you lose someone like Climo and you don't have a young guy coming in that's anywhere near that type of caliber of player, and then you're not able to replace him in free agency, that's a pretty big blow to try to overcome. So Mike's a good GM and he's got a system there in Aurora, but I think that's something that's going to be interesting to watch moving forward because Climo was a huge part of their success the past few seasons.
Yeah. Well, they're going to steal a lot of bases, right?
Yep.
We can be sure that Aurora is going to steal a lot of bases because they always do. I think last year they won with pitching and defense and speed. I think that you could say that last year, if I remember correctly, they had some really good defense, good zone rating, and you know if they can repeat what they did last year, fine. I just think losing Climo is huge, right?
Yeah, it's I don't see it being overcome unless Mike's able to make some moves to add during the season. And I think that's where it's going to be. I think he's got to do it early, and if he doesn't, then I think he's going to be in a bad situation come the trade deadline to try to make up lost games by that point. But I mean, he's got a guy that is not going to replace Climo as a pitcher, but this rookie outfielder Juan Ho Pak
Yeah,
is it was a coin flip when we'll show you our projections for Wunderkind award, but he was one of the top guys that I had on my list as a potential top rookie coming into the league.
he's off to a great start. I looked at him too and said, "Ooh, this is definitely a rookie that is going to be good." So he started the season off 20 plate appearances, but he's got a 400 batting average, a 550 on base percentage, and a 400 slugging percentage for a 950 OPS and a 186 OPS plus. So
I think Mike should probably trade him because he's got too much power for Aurora.
that's right. He might lead their team in home runs. We'll see. He hit 21 home runs in AAA last year. So I like him.
Gonna be, yeah, he's got some nice young mixture of players there. It's just they're gonna have to overcome that Climo loss, and I don't know I don't know how you do it without uh, making a big move. So that'll be something fun to watch throughout the year to see what Mike does there.
All right. How about the Rising Sun? I think the division with the most difficult team names to pronounce.
Well, before we do our predictions, I just want to say shout out to the Great Lakes for just dominating the Rising Sun in the first week of the season because if you take a look at their records, that's exactly who faced off against each other. And yeah, there's some pretty shocking shocking records there to start off with. Toyoma was 5-1, but everyone else was well below 500.
Well, I think the only winless team is Okinawa, 0-6. It makes my 2-3 not look so bad.
I was gonna say your 2 and 3 looks real good compared to the rest of the Rising Sun. I know. It's one sim, everyone, before.
Nope, you can project the whole season on the first week. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that.
We just need to do another preseason prediction thing. I'm sure that looks great now.
All right, so
Well,
Rising Sun. I've got Toyoma 1, Shinseki 2, Nihamashi 3, Okinawa 4, and Neo Tokyo 5th.
me too. Okay, on to the next division. Oh, wait, there aren't any more.
Yeah, it's tough. Again, it's not super easy, but I think that Toyoma is the best team in that division. Not just because they started off the season 5-1, but I think that when the dust settles, they're going to be at the top of the Rising Sun.
No, I think when you look on just purely player ratings and depth, I think they have the deepest squad. And then it gets interesting after that of trying, like you said earlier, you can pick the division winner, but then you're starting to try to differentiate little pieces of each team to figure out who's the next one in line. And like I said, I had the same lineup you did. I think the Avas have made moves in back-to-back seasons that have made their team stronger. I just don't know if it's strong enough to take Toyoma down.
But yes, Shinseki won the division last year with a 98-64 record. Oh, I'm sorry, they were second. They were in second place. They were one game in back, I think, of Toyoma. So, I think you could legitimately pick Shinseki to win that division. I don't think Toyoma is definitely like the automatic winner, but again, somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to come in second, and I think that it's probably going to be a repeat of last year.
Well, and it definitely looks like the Shinseki is trying to build a starting staff of mainly lefties, and geez, their whole entire bullpen is lefties too. Just
No way.
I understand that the value of lefties, but it becomes a moot point when you have too many of them because there aren't that many lefties in the league that are hitters either. Like, so if you're in a division with a bunch of lefty power hitters, it makes sense to load up on lefties. But when you look at Toyoma's team, they're a pretty balanced team, so it's that advantage isn't really going to be there. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But
Oh yeah. So nine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 lefties and 3 righties in their and on their entire staff.
too many.
Interesting.
See how it shakes out. But in general, when you're building a rotation, if you have a bunch of lefties in your rotation, you want righties in the bullpen, and you need a couple lefties, but you want more righties because the other team is going to set their lineup based on your starter. So then for you to counter, you want to have the opposite. So I don't know. I haven't dug it deep enough probably to, look at their splits and do all that, but most of the time, lefties aren't having reverse splits. So
But as
we'll see how it goes.
we talked about with Ken, in Out of the Park, it just seems like the splits don't make a lot of sense. Hitters with bad splits can perform fairly well. They tend to perform better than I would expect them to. So I don't know if there's something in the game engine that is a little wonky on the left-right thing, but it just doesn't seem to play out like it should. I've seen many, many times where you have a hitter who should just get crushed by left-handed pitching, and they seem to perform okay. You know, it's an odd phenomenon that I've definitely seen in the game.
Maybe it's here's my conspiracy theory. Maybe the Vales do not care about any other team in the division, and it's just what can
Each
I
other,
do to beat my brother?
each other.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Well,
the Ghosts have their 2 through 4 hitters are one is a switch hitter, but he's really a lefty power hitter. That
The Ghosts have a
so
decent number of lefties too. So out of theirs, two, three, four, five, six lefties, and
theirs makes a little bit more sense though
yeah,
because you got 3 righties starters, so then you have you could they have 4 lefties in the pen, so it's a little bit more of what you traditionally would see or what you'd
it'll be
want. But
interesting to see how I perform against those teams because I don't have any. My two lefties are defense players; they're not hitters. So, you know, I mean, until I think Washington's left-handed. Washington's a switch hitter. So when Washington comes back, that would be interesting. But I've got, most of my good hitters that I expect to hit well are all righties.
it's definitely the the floor is higher on that approach, but there's sometimes where these lefty power guys that have really drastic splits, but if you can get a few of them in your lineup, can get some ridiculous power numbers out of it. But
All
let's
right.
see.
So
There
I've
was one
got,
more point I wanted to make on this. There
go
was
ahead.
trying to think I lost my train of thought on it. We'll figure it out. We'll probably be right when we're closing.
All right. I've got for best pitcher in the Rising Sun, I've got Johnny Arthur from Shinseki. And the best hitter, I've got first baseman Francisco Cabrera from Toyoma. How about you?
Same. Rising Sun is super easy to talk about.
Right.
Oh, I do know where I was going to go with this, though.
You mean the Vale division?
Yeah, the Veil Division. It will be interesting to see with Bob Cowan with the Avas how that works out as a closer because traditionally lefty closers don't really work out well because unless you're just a super dominant lefty against both righties and lefties. So it'll be interesting to see how he works. He's got 96 to 98 velocity, so good there. Um, his splits between lefties and righties are pretty similar, but lean heavier lefty as you'd expect. But I don't know. It should be interesting. He's lefty closers have not traditionally worked in baseball, so and I know someone will comment about 5 lefty closers that have worked, and I'll have to let them know. Yes, there's your 5 out of how many teams every year, but
All right. You want to do award winners?
yeah. So we hinted on the Michael Roberts Royal Raker Award winner. Is that who you ended up going with?
Yeah, let's do the IL. Or we did the IL already. Yeah.
We
So
did
on the
that. Yep.
so on the SL, I've got Michael Roberts from Tempe. I just think he's just the best hitter in the league. Um, and then for the Golden Arm, I've got Ernest Smith from Tempe, and then maybe uh, because of insider knowledge, maybe this is not going to be a common pick. For the Wonderkind, I've got first baseman Wes Piper from Bakersfield.
I've got a similar. The only one that was different for me was starting pitcher Johnny Arthur with the
Yeah,
Avas.
yeah, I thought about him too.
He's right there as one of the top ones, and definitely one that you want to have in your rotation to roll around. Well, do you want to go straight to who we think is going to be in the championship game, or do you want to go through every
Yeah, we don't
single?
have to. Now we don't have to go through the specifics. Yeah, so
Because my problem, I'll just say, my problem with like when you're filling out these is there's half the time I'm like, I don't even know if this team, I know this is a wild card team. I know they're going to match up against another wild card team or the third place division winner. But then after that, it's like the team you put in there could very well not be even the team that uh you know what is it, standing wise or rating wise, whatever you want to call it, for the seating wise of rank, if it even matches up. So it's like
Right.
a
No,
crapshoot.
I'm with you. It's very difficult to get that stuff down. So it's easy. I think it's easier just to try and predict the PEC winners or the teams in the championship. So I've got the Scottish making it with Tempe on the SL, and I've got the Scottish beating Tempe. And let's say 7 games. Let's say it's a good long series that's highly competitive.
A very sporting affair. Well, you were giving me crap about this before you knew who I picked, but you want to tell the league what your opinions are on people picking themselves to win?
I think it's good to have confidence in yourself and your team, but it can appear a little off-putting, like especially for me. Like nobody thinks, well, almost nobody thinks that my team is going to even make the playoffs. So me picking my team to make it to the championship series just seems a little off-putting. So there's no way I would pick my team to win it all. But again, I get it. It's different if I had Florida's team or if I was the GM of your team. I might be you know might be willing to predict myself as a winner.
Well, for me, it's like it's an upset pick because it wouldn't the easy pick just be keep picking Florida every year? Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like I think this is your year. I think you're going to get past Florida this year. I think the moves that you made in the offseason um, were excellent moves that are going to get you to the promised land. And it's not like it's easy to knock off Florida, right? That's not an easy task, but I think you can do it this year. And as blasphemous as it might be to say, I think that whatever team wins in the SL is going to win, or in the IL is going to win the championship. I don't think that the teams in my league. I don't think any of us. I mean, anything can happen, right? We talked about it before. A hot streak at the right time. Several seasons ago, I got really, really hot at the end of the season and rode that streak all the way to the championship series, and then ran into a buzzsaw that was Florida that year, or every year, and that's just because I got lucky. So any one of the teams can get hot and get lucky, but if we're eliminating the luck factor or the hot streak factor, I think that the winner of the championship is going to be either Florida or the Scottish.
well, I guess it's time to make you uncomfortable and say that my prediction is the Scottish facing off against the Reno Zephyrs in the PEC.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It'd
That
be
would be a
fun
lot
for
of fun.
us. It wouldn't be fun
Yeah,
for probably the rest of the league, but
we could do a podcast after each sim.
yeah, more CP. Might get five
Maybe,
views.
maybe. Back to my team again. So I think, I'm expecting my pitching to be significantly improved because of the trade that I made, acquiring a really good defensive shortstop and then a really good defensive catcher. So I think my improvement with defense and I'm moving Ivan Martinez, my left fielder, to DH because he's got a brick for a glove. I think, I think my zone rating and my defense is gonna be significantly improved this year, which I think is gonna help the pitching. And I do have a high ground ball percentage team. So shortstop's been difficult for me to find somebody for the last several seasons since Ken Schmidt decided that despite the fact that his ratings were good, he just couldn't field the ball anymore. I don't understand why, but I'm hoping for significant improvement in that area. Will it be enough to carry me to the championship series? I'm color me skeptical, but uh, I like your optimism.
I think the SL is wide open, and that's where, to
I
your
can see
point,
that.
where it's who gets hot, and I think that's where, I mean, every division winner on the SL side could possibly win the whole thing, or at least represent the SL in the championship. But I mean, you've always got the Rising Sun with two or three, sometimes four teams that could be playoff teams. Now the Desert Hills is much more competitive, so I think that the Desert Hills will start to pull some of those playoff spots that have been going to the Rising Sun for years. So, and then you've got the Great Lakes improving too. So I think the SL is a more the competition level is tighter, but I do think on the IL side the top level teams there might be more of a gap between those than the rest of the IL. So could be wrong, but it is OOTP, so we'll see how 26 does with bringing everyone together. But yeah, I think the SL is going to be fun to watch because there's going to be a lot of teams that are highly competitive, and I think it's all going to be very close, like handful of games between probably the one and the three seed, really. And then once
Yeah,
you start going further down, that's going to be even tighter. So
going to be a fun season. I'm just grateful that we're playing games again.
heck yeah, who can not? It's been a long time coming, and
Yeah,
I know people say
dead
it's
horse.
fine,
We're beating a dead horse.
but bottom line is at least we're here and we're playing games again. So no, everyone should have the optimism of at least, well, that's probably gone after the first sim, but that
No,
hey,
look,
there might be.
Bakersfield's feeling great, right? It's
Oh
it's
yeah,
nice. It's nice to have the optimism because your team has not gone on a significant losing streak yet. So optimism's good.
it is, and I mean Lenny did it all without Wes Piper. So what's that
Right?
lineup going to be with Wes Piper?
He's gonna rip off a six win sim. That's what I'm predicting for Bakersfield.
That'd be so funny if Lenny was leading your division by a ton of games and then just slowly go back to. That's what I feel is one of the changes in the game has been though, is that it pulls up teams that you're not expecting to try to create basically like a playoff race or whatever, and then those teams get annihilated at the end. It's just not it's not fair. Get your hopes up and then just crush you.
It's a
All right,
long
man.
season.
It's a long season, like
That's
you
right.
said.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Talk to you next time.
All right, later, Sean.
All right. Bye.
From the highlands of Edinburgh to the Jersey Shore, we've got baseball like you've never seen before. In Reno, the desert heats up the play, while in Bakersfield we swing the night away. Welcome to the PEBA, where the world's our field. From the mountains to the cities, the action's never sealed. With gloves on and bats in hand, we're here to thrill. In the planetary extreme baseball alliance, we've got the skill. In Tokyo, the pitch is sky like neon lights. And down in San Antonio, the game ignites. From the beaches of Florida to the plains of Fargo, our league's the wildest, we won't refrain. Welcome to the PEBA, where the world's our field. From the mountains to the cities, the action's never sealed. With gloves on and bats in hand, we're here to thrill. In the Planetary Extreme Baseball Alliance, we've got the skill. We cross borders with our bats. Our game's a global feast, where every hit's an adventure, and every catch is a masterpiece. So tune in, sit back, and let's take the ride. With teams from every corner, we've got baseball worldwide. Worldwide, worldwide, worldwide. In Tempe, the sand's no match for our speed. And in Toyoma, the crowd's the game's true lead. From Aurora's cool breeze to the heat in Havana, we play with passion, we're the baseball globetrotters. Welcome to the PEBA, where the world's our field. From the mountains to the cities, the action's never seen.